Hello and welcome to this Divine Slumber Bible bedtime story. Tonight, you are invited into a story that has been whispered through centuries, a story wrapped in mystery, in power, and in the quiet shadow between light and darkness. Before we begin, take a moment to notice where you are. Feel the softness beneath your body, the gentle support of your pillow, the quiet stillness of the room around you. Perhaps there is a faint hum in the distance, or the soft rhythm of your own breathing, rising and falling like waves upon a peaceful shore. Breathe in slowly now, and let it go. Gently, effortlessly. Again. Breathe in, and release. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your thoughts drift like clouds across a silent sky. You are safe here. You are held. You are watched over. And as your body begins to rest, your mind can begin to wander, softly, gently, into a time long before our own. A time of golden kingdoms, of sacred mountains, of kings who spoke with wisdom and with God. There is a story, rarely told in full. A story of a king whose wisdom was unmatched, whose name echoed across nations. King Solomon. But tonight, we will not only speak of his wisdom, we will step into the deeper silence behind it, because hidden within ancient writings, beyond the pages most have read, there exists a darker thread, a mystery that few dare to follow. It tells of a temple, not built by human hands alone, of unseen forces bound by divine authority, of whispers that move through the night, like wind through ancient cedar. And yet, even within this mystery, there is something gentle waiting for you. A reminder that no matter how deep the darkness may seem, the light of God remains constant, steady, unshaken. Tonight's journey is not one of fear. It is a journey of surrender. A journey where you can release the weight of the day, the quiet worries, the unspoken thoughts, the things you carried longer than you needed to. As you listen, allow the story to carry you, not into tension, but into stillness. Not into questions, but into rest. Because even in the story of power, there is peace. Even in the story of kings, there is comfort. And even in the shadow, there is the presence of God, watching over you, gently, faithfully, endlessly. So let your breathing slow, just a little more. Let your body sink, just a little deeper. And as the world around you fades into silence, we will journey back thousands of years to a land of stone and starlight, to a king chosen by God, to a story few have ever truly heard. In this very moment, open your heart and receive the peace that is coming. I invite you now to settle fully into this moment. There is nowhere else you need to go, nothing else you need to do, no task left unfinished that cannot wait until tomorrow. Gently, slowly, allow your body to find its most natural resting position. Adjust your pillow, just slightly, until it feels like it is holding you, not the other way around. Pull your blanket closer. Feel its quiet warmth wrapping around you, like a soft and silent embrace in the dark. If there is any light in the room, let it dim or fade into a gentle glow. And now, softly, without effort, allow your eyes to close. Not forced, not tight, just gently, like petals folding at dusk. Breathe in slowly now. A long, deep, quiet breath, filling your lungs, your chest, your whole body. And then release it, softly, gently, completely, as though the day itself is leaving your body. With that single breath, again, breathe in. Slow, calm, unhurried, and exhale. Longer this time. Let it fall away, like a sigh carried into the night. Breathe slowly now, and notice the rhythm that begins to form, like waves upon a quiet shore, coming in and drifting out, nothing forced, nothing controlled, just natural, steady, peaceful. Let your breath become your anchor, always there, always gentle, guiding you deeper into rest. Now, bring your awareness to your forehead. Feel it soften, as though a warm, invisible light is smoothing away every line, every trace of thought, every hidden tension. Your brow is calm. Your mind is quieting. Your eyes resting beneath your eyelids. Heavy, but not uncomfortable. Just relaxed, as if they have been waiting all day for this stillness. Let your cheeks soften. Your jaw unclenches. If your teeth are touching, allow a small space between them. Your tongue resting gently, with no effort, no tension. Now, feel your neck. Let it sink deeper into the pillow, supported, safe, completely at ease. Your shoulders, let them drop, lower and lower still, as though a great weight has been lifted, a weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. All the small burdens, all the quiet stresses, released now, gone. You do not need to hold them anymore. Not tonight. You are safe. You are held. God is watching over you. Let that truth settle into your heart. Softly, gently, deeply. Now, your arms. Feel the relaxation flowing downward. Your upper arms, heavy, still. Your elbows soft. Your forearms sinking into rest. Your hands, let them rest however they fall. Open, relaxed, natural. Your fingers loose, slightly curled, or stretched. There is no right way. Only comfort, only peace. Breathe in slowly now. And as you exhale, feel that breath flowing downward into your chest, your heart beating steadily, calm, faithful, constant. There is nothing you need to solve right now, nothing you need to understand. Every question can wait. Every answer will come in time, but not now. Now is for rest. Now is for peace. Your chest softens. Your breathing becomes lighter, gentler. Like a lullaby, your body already knows. Now, bring your awareness to your stomach. Let it rise naturally as you breathe in and fall effortlessly as you breathe out. No holding, no tension, just softness, just ease. Let go of control. Let your body breathe for you, as it has always known how. Now, your lower back, your hips, feel them grow heavy, sinking deeper into the surface beneath you, supported completely. If there is any tightness, any lingering discomfort, imagine it dissolving, melting away, slowly. Like mist disappearing in morning light, your body is letting go, layer by layer, breath by breath. Now, your thighs, large, powerful muscles, finally allowed to rest, softening completely. Your knees, loose, relaxed, free of effort. Your calves, light, almost weightless, as though they are floating, carried by the stillness around you. And now, your feet, your heels, the soles, your toes, every small space, every tiny muscle, releasing, letting go, resting fully. Your entire body now, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, is at rest, still, calm, peaceful. Breathe slowly now. Let each breath take you deeper, further into this quiet space, a space where nothing disturbs you, nothing reaches you, nothing is required of you. You are safe, you are calm, you are at peace, and as you rest here, imagine above you a vast and gentle night sky, stretching endlessly, deep, soft, infinite, filled with quiet stars, each one glowing softly, steady, patient, eternal. Good. You are beneath that sky, resting, held, watched over, never alone. Not now, not ever. God is with you, in the silence, in the stillness, in the space between each breath, watching over you with a love that does not fade, a presence that does not leave, a peace that does not break. Let that presence surround you like a soft covering, like a quiet whisper. You are safe. You are held. You are loved. If thoughts begin to return, if your mind starts to wander, that is all right. There is nothing wrong with that. Simply notice them and let them drift away, like leaves on water, floating slowly out of sight. You do not need to follow them. You do not need to hold them. Just let them pass and return gently to your breath. Breathe in and out, slowly, softly, effortlessly. Rest here for a moment. Let this stillness deepen. Let your body sink just a little more. Let your mind grow just a little quieter. And as you continue to rest, we will soon begin to step into the story. A story carried through time, through ancient voices, through sacred memory. But there is no need to hurry. No need to move forward yet. For now, just rest. Just breathe. Just be. And when you are ready, the story will gently begin to unfold. Long before the temple rose in golden silence, long before the whispers of unseen spirits moved through stone and shadow, there was a king and there was a promise. In the quiet memory of ancient Israel, there lived a shepherd boy who became a king, King David. He was a man of songs and sorrow, of victory and repentance, a man who had stood beneath open skies with nothing but a sling and faith, and had brought down giants with a single stone. His voice had once echoed through valleys, singing to God beneath the stars, and those songs, soft and aching, would one day become prayers carried across generations. But David was not only a man of worship, he was a man of war. His hands, though chosen, though anointed, had known the weight of the sword, had felt the heat of battle, had been marked by the cost of victory. And so when the longing rose within him to build a house for the Lord, a sacred place where heaven and earth might meet, God spoke, not in anger, but in quiet truth. You have shed much blood. You have fought many battles. And so you shall not build this house for my name. There was no rejection in those words, only purpose, only timing, only a plan unfolding, far beyond what even a king could see. And within that plan, there was a son, a child, born not in chaos, but in the stillness that follows repentance, born from a love that had been broken and then restored. Solomon. From his earliest days, there was something different about him, something quiet, something watchful, something deep. While other sons of David trained with sword and shield, racing across hills beneath the burning sun, Solomon often remained in stillness, sitting beneath olive trees where the air carried the scent of earth and time, listening, not just hearing, but listening. To the voices of priests reading sacred words, to the wind moving through branches, to the silence between sounds, where something unseen seemed to dwell. As night fell and the stars spread across the sky like scattered light, Solomon would look upward, not with fear, but with wonder. He did not ask for power. He did not dream of conquest. He asked questions, questions that lingered, questions that unfolded, questions that made even the elders pause, exchanging quiet glances, as if recognizing something they could not yet name. There was wisdom in him, not loud, not declared, but growing, like roots beneath the soil. And as the years passed, the kingdom of Israel stood strong, stretching wide beneath the rule of David, peaceful like morning dew, resting upon the land. But even kings grow weary. Even the strongest voices grow quiet. And in time, the day came when David lay upon his bed, his breath slower now, his body no longer carrying the strength it once held. The room was dim, lit only by the soft flicker of oil lamps, their light dancing gently upon stone walls, casting shadows that moved like memories. The air was still, heavy, but not with fear, with transition, with the quiet understanding that something was coming to an end, so that something else might begin. David called for his son. Solomon entered, softly, quietly, as though stepping into a sacred moment. He knelt beside his father, close enough to hear the fragile rhythm of his breath. And David, once a warrior, once a king, whose voice commanded nations, reached out with a trembling hand. Solomon, my son. His voice was no longer strong. It moved like wind through dry grass, gentle, fading, yet filled with meaning. I am going the way of all the earth. There was no fear in his words, only truth. Be strong and show yourself a man. Walk in the ways of the Lord your God. Keep his commandments. Follow his paths. Each word, slow, deliberate, carrying the weight of a life lived before God. 1. And you will prosper in all that you do. Solomon listened, not as a prince, not as a future king, but as a son. Tears filled his eyes, but he did not speak them aloud. I will, Father, he whispered. I will walk in his ways all my days. And for a moment, something softened in David's face, a quiet light returning, like the last glow of sunset before night fully arrives. You will build the house, he said. The house I could not build. And there, in that dimly lit room, between breath and silence, the promise passed from one generation to the next. Not as a burden, but as a calling. Not as a command, but as a destiny. Soon after, David closed his eyes, and the songs he had once sung beneath the stars became echoes carried into eternity. The kingdom now rested upon young shoulders. Solomon, perhaps no more than 20, stood beneath a crown that felt heavier than gold, heavier than expectation, heavier than anything he had ever known. The people loved him. They believed in him. But within his heart, there was something else. One. Go. 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 Not pride. Not certainty. But awareness. The awareness of how little he knew. And one night, in the quiet that follows great change, Solomon walked alone. He left behind the walls of the palace, the voices of the court, the weight of expectation, and he went to a high place where the altar stood beneath open sky. The air was cool, touched by night, the stars above, endless, watching. He brought offerings, many offerings, and as the fire rose, smoke drifting upward like silent prayers, Solomon remained. Long after the flames had dimmed, long after the voices had faded, he lay upon the ground, exhausted, quiet, open, and there, between sleep and waking, between earth and something beyond, God spoke, not as thunder, not as fire, but as a presence that filled everything. Ask what you wish, and I will give it to you. There was no urgency, no demand, only invitation. Solomon's heart trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of possibility. And he could have asked for riches, for power, for long life, for victory over every enemy that might rise against him. But instead, he bowed low. Even within the dream, his voice quiet, humble, sincere. I am only a child. I do not know how to lead. Give your servant an understanding heart, that I may discern between good and evil, that I may guide your people with wisdom. Silence followed, deep, sacred, full, and then the presence responded, not distant, but near. Not cold, but filled with something like joy. Because you have asked for this, because you have not asked for riches or power, I give you a wise and discerning heart. And beyond that, I give you what you did not ask, honor and blessing beyond any king before you. When Solomon awoke, the dawn was rising. Soft light spilling over the hills, touching the world with gold. And though everything looked the same, nothing was the same. Something within him had changed, quietly, deeply, permanently. That he saw more clearly, felt more deeply, understood more fully. And as he returned to the city, the people saw it. They brought their disputes, their questions, their burdens. And when Solomon spoke, there was clarity, there was justice, there was something beyond human reasoning, something that caused hearts to soften and minds to rest. And so, his name began to spread, not as a warrior, not as a conqueror, but as a king of wisdom, a king, chosen, a son of promise, a vessel prepared for something far greater than he yet understood. And though the temple had not yet been built, though the shadows had not yet stirred, the story had already begun. Breathe slowly now. Let that image settle. The young king, beneath the rising sun. Chosen, guided, watched, over. Just as you are, safe, held, and never alone. The days that followed were filled with purpose, with movement, with the quiet unfolding of a promise long spoken. Under the reign of Solomon, the kingdom breathed in a rhythm of peace, a calm that settled over the land like morning light upon still water. And at the center of that peace, there was a task waiting to begin. The temple, the house that would not be built by David, but by his son. The place where heaven and earth would meet, where the presence of God would dwell among his people. As well, the preparations had already been made, long before Solomon took the throne. Cedar from distant lands, carried across waters and mountains, its scent rich and ancient. Stone cut deep beneath the earth, shaped with such precision that each piece seemed to belong exactly where it would rest. Gold and silver, gathered in abundance, enough to reflect light like fire within sacred walls. Everything was ready. All that remained was to begin. And so, the mountain was chosen. A place already marked by memory, by sacrifice, by the quiet echo of something holy that had once taken place there. Mount Moriah. The ground itself seemed to hold its breath, as if aware that it was about to become something more. At dawn, the workers came. Thousands of them. Men with strong hands, with tools worn from years of labor, with voices that rose together in song as they climbed the slopes. The air filled with sound, not harsh, but rhythmic. The steady strike of hammer against stone, the soft rasp of tools shaping wood, the movement of many hands working as one. Dust rose into the air like incense, drifting upward, touched by sunlight, turning gold as it moved. And slowly, the foundation began to take form. Massive stones, placed one upon another, so perfectly aligned, so carefully measured, that no space remained between them. It was as if the mountain itself was offering its body, allowing the temple to emerge from within it. Day after day, the work continued. The walls began to rise. Shapes began to appear. Lines of structure, forming something that had once existed only in vision, now becoming real, visible, tangible. There was order. There was beauty. There was peace. And yet, within that peace, something unseen had already begun to move. It started quietly, so quietly that no one noticed at first. A single worker, a young man, strong, capable, one who had labored faithfully from the beginning, did not return the next morning. His absence was small, easily overlooked, lost among the many. But when his companions went to find him, they found him lying still, his body weak, his breath shallow, his eyes distant, as though something had taken more than just his strength. He spoke in fragments, his voice barely a whisper. Something comes in the night. His words were slow, uncertain. I feel it, pressing, taking. They listened, but did not understand. Fear stirred, but quietly, carefully, hidden beneath reason. Perhaps it was illness. Perhaps exhaustion. Perhaps nothing at all. And so they said little and returned to their work. But the next day, another did not come. This, and then another, and another. Each one the same. Strong men, reduced to weakness, their bodies untouched by wound, yet drained, as though something unseen had passed through them, leaving only emptiness behind. Whispers began to spread, soft at first, carried between workers, in quiet corners, in glances, exchanged without words. They spoke of shadows, of movement where there should be none, of a presence that lingered just beyond sight, felt more than seen. Some spoke of waking in the night, unable to move, their breath held, their chest heavy, as though something sat upon them, feeding, taking, waiting. Fear grew, not loud, not chaotic, but steady, like a slow rising tide. The songs became quieter, the laughter faded. The rhythm of work, once strong and unified, began to falter. Some men left, unable to stay. D. Others remained, but carried unease within them, their eyes shifting, their movements uncertain. The mountain, once filled with purpose, now held something else. Something unseen, something watching. And word reached the king. Solomon listened, not with dismissal, not with doubt, but with a stillness that came from knowing. This was not sickness. This was not fatigue. This was something deeper. Something that did not belong to the world of flesh or bone or breath. And as the sun began to fall, casting long shadows across the unfinished stones, Solomon went to the mountain himself alone. The workers had gone. The tools lay silent, the air still, waiting. He walked slowly across the foundation, his steps quiet, his presence calm. Anything, any quote. The stones beneath his feet were cold, steady, ancient. He knelt, placing his hands upon them, and for a moment, he simply remained there, not speaking, not moving, listening to the silence, to the space beneath the silence, to the subtle shift that only a heart attuned to God could feel. And then, softly, he prayed, "Lord, my God." His voice was low, carried into the stillness, like breath upon water. "You have called me to build this house, but something stands against it. I do not see it. I do not understand it. But you do." There was no fear in his words, only surrender. "Teach me. Show me. Guide me as you have before." The wind moved gently across the mountain, brushing against stone, whispering through the empty spaces where walls would one day stand. Night came slowly, darkness settling not as threat, but as covering. Solomon remained, waiting, listening, trusting. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, something changed. Not in sound, not in sight, but within. A warmth, subtle, steady, began to spread through him. A knowing, not spoken, yet understood. You will have help. The message did not come as voice, but as presence. You are not alone. Solomon opened his eyes. The sky had begun to glow, soft gold breaking through the darkness. The mountain, once shadowed, now touched by light. He did not yet know what would come. He did not know how the unseen would be revealed. He did not know that the boundary between worlds, between light and darkness, was about to be crossed. But he knew this. God had heard him, and the answer was already on its way. Breathe slowly now. Let the image settle. The quiet mountain, the unfinished temple, the king kneeling in stillness. And even in the presence of something unknown, there is peace. Because God is near. Because you are safe. Because even in the unseen, you are never alone. The night after his prayer, the night after he had knelt upon the cold stone and placed his uncertainty before God, Solomon returned to his chamber. But rest did not come easily. The palace was quiet, wrapped in the deep stillness that only comes when the world has surrendered to sleep. Beyond the walls, Jerusalem lay silent, its lamps flickering faintly, like distant stars fallen upon the earth. But within Solomon, there was movement. Not fear, not quite, but a weight, a knowing that something unseen was drawing closer. He sat by the window for a long time, watching the darkness stretch across the city, listening to the quiet rhythm of his own breath. Breathe slowly now. Let that stillness settle. And as the hours passed, the night deepened. Even the smallest sounds began to fade, until there was nothing left but silence. And then Solomon knelt, once more, upon the stone floor, once more, with nothing but his voice and his trust. Lord God of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, up. His words were soft, carried not by force, but by faith. You have given me wisdom, yet I do not understand this darkness. You have called me to build your house, yet something stands against it. If it is your will, show me the way. I am your servant. Use me. And then he waited, not demanding, not searching, only waiting. And slowly, something began to change. The air shifted, subtle at first, a gentle movement, like the breath before a storm, or the hush before dawn. The flame of the oil lamps trembled, bending slightly, as though touched by an unseen wind. The shadows in the room seemed to stretch, not in fear, but in anticipation. And then the light changed, not brighter, not dimmer, but different, as though another presence had entered, carrying with it something beyond the world of men. Solomon lifted his head, and there, before him, stood a figure, tall, radiant, unmoving. A being clothed in something that seemed like woven light, threads of brightness layered upon one another, like the surface of a still lake under the sun. His face, calm, steady, not harsh, yet filled with authority that could not be questioned. His eyes, deep, holding within them something ancient, something vast, something that reached beyond time itself. And from his shoulders, wings, wings, wings. Great, luminous, stretching outward, each feather edged with a glow that did not burn, yet carried the presence of fire. Solomon's breath caught, and without thinking, without hesitation, he fell forward, his face to the ground. Not out of terror, but out of recognition, a presence from heaven, a messenger not of this world. Do not be afraid. Solomon, son of David. The voice filled the room, not loud, yet impossible to ignore. Like distant thunder, softened by distance, yet still carrying its power. I am Michael, Archangel Michael, commander of the hosts of heaven, servant of the Most High. I have been sent in answer to your prayer. Solomon remained still, his heart beating, steady, yet deep. He had read of angels. He had heard the stories. But to stand in their presence, to feel the weight of heaven itself within the walls of his chamber, was something beyond words. Michael stepped forward, each movement calm, deliberate, without haste. And as he moved, the air itself seemed to hum, as though creation recognized its maker's messenger. From within his robe, he drew something small, something simple, yet radiant. A ring. It rested in his open palm, gleaming softly, as though holding light within itself. The band was gold, pure, unbroken, without flaw. But it was the seal that drew the eye, a mark engraved with precision, a symbol of interwoven lines, forming something balanced, something complete, something eternal. And though Solomon had never seen it before, something within him recognized it, not as knowledge, but as truth. This ring, Michael said gently, bears the authority of the Most High. It is not merely gold. It is not merely form. It carries command over that which walks in darkness. And Solomon slowly lifted his head, his voice barely more than a whisper. My Lord, why would such power be given to me? Why would? Michael's gaze softened, though his presence remained vast, unshaken. Because the work you have been given is not only among men. There are forces that resist the light, that move unseen, that seek to weaken what God has called into being. You have already seen their shadow, and now you are given authority to stand against it. He extended his hand, offering the ring. Take it. When you encounter the spirits that afflict your people, you will command them. They will resist, they will deceive, they will whisper, but they will obey. Solomon hesitated, not from doubt, but from understanding. This was no small gift. This was no simple tool. This was a responsibility, a threshold, a crossing between what is seen and what is hidden. Slowly, carefully, he reached out. His fingers touched the ring. And in that moment, something moved through him. Not pain, not fear, but warmth. A deep, steady warmth spreading from his hand into his chest, into his breath, into his very being. It was not overwhelming, but it was undeniable, a quiet awakening. He placed the ring upon his finger. It fit perfectly, as though it had always been meant for him. Michael nodded. Remember this, Solomon. Your power does not come from the ring. It comes from the one who gave it. The moment you forget that, the moment you trust in yourself above him, the authority you carry will begin to fade. The words settled, deeply, firmly, not as warning alone, but as truth. I will remember. Solomon whispered. I will not forget. For a moment, silence returned, sacred, still, complete. And then Michael's presence began to change. The light around him grew stronger, brighter, yet not blinding. His wings, radiant, stretching once more. The first of them is already near. His name is Orneus. He is the one who drains the strength of your servant. Go to him, and you will see the power of heaven made known. And then, just as quietly as he had come, Michael was gone. The light faded. The air returned. The room, once again, still, but nothing was the same. The ring remained, warm upon Solomon's hand, alive, in a way that could not be explained. He did not sleep that night. He sat once more by the window, watching as darkness slowly gave way to dawn. The city below, unaware, the world unchanged. And yet, everything had shifted, because now the unseen would no longer remain hidden. Now, the boundary had been crossed. Breathe slowly now. Let that moment settle. The quiet room, the presence of heaven, the ring resting gently upon his hand. A gift, a calling, a beginning. And as the first light of morning touched the sky, Solomon rose, not as he had been before, but as one entrusted with light, with authority, and with a path that would lead him deeper than he yet understood. You are safe. You are held. And even in the unseen, God is near. The morning arrived quietly, as all mornings do, with soft light stretching across the hills of Jerusalem, touching rooftops, brushing the edges of stone, awakening the world without sound. But for Solomon, this was not a morning like any other. He rose not only as a king, but as one who had been entrusted, marked, chosen to walk between what is seen and what remains hidden. The ring rested upon his hand, warm, steady, present. A quiet reminder that heaven had spoken, and that the answer to his prayer had already begun to unfold. Breathe slowly now. Let the stillness of that moment settle, the world awakening, while something deeper stirs beneath it. Solomon did not call for servants, did not gather guards. He walked alone, through the streets of the city, now filling with the gentle movement of morning life, past voices, past footsteps, past the ordinary rhythm of a day that did not yet know what was coming. His path led him to a small dwelling, simple, quiet, almost hidden among others. Inside, the young man lay, the same one who had first spoken of the night, of the presence, of the unseen weight that pressed upon him as he slept. His name was Adar. His body was still, but not at rest. His breath shallow, uneven, as though something invisible still lingered near. Beside him, his mother sat, her hands trembling slightly, her eyes heavy with worry, with sleepless nights, with questions that had no answers. When Solomon entered, she gasped softly, rising quickly, unsure whether to speak or to bow, or to simply remain still in the presence of her king. But Solomon raised his hand gently. "Peace," he said, his voice calm, low, steady. "I have come to help your son." There was no fear in his tone, only certainty. He moved closer, kneeling beside the young man, and for a moment he did not speak. He simply observed, not with his eyes alone, but with something deeper, something awakened the night before. And then, softly, "Tonight," he said, "it will end." The day passed slowly. as days often do when something unknown waits beneath the surface. The sun rose higher, then began its descent. Shadows lengthened, the air cooled, and as evening settled, Solomon returned. He entered the small room once more, quietly, without ceremony. And he waited. He sat in the corner, still, silent. The ring hidden beneath his hand, the presence of heaven resting quietly, unseen, yet undeniable. Adar lay upon his mat, his breathing shallow, his body tense, even in sleep, as though something within him already knew what the night would bring. The room grew darker. The small flame of an oil lamp flickered gently, casting soft light upon the walls, stretching shadows into shapes that shifted, slowly, subtly. And then, something changed. It was not sudden, not loud, not visible at first. But it was felt, a coldness, not of air, but of presence. The flame bent, slightly, as though touched by breath that could not be seen. Adar's body stiffened. His chest rose sharply, then held. His fingers twitched, grasping at nothing. And Solomon saw it. At first, only a distortion. A thickness in the air, just above the young man, darker than the darkness around it. Then, movement. Slow, deliberate, like smoke gathering into form. It hovered, pressing downward, feeding, drawing something unseen from the one beneath it. And in that moment, Solomon understood. This was no sickness, no dream. This was a being, a presence that did not belong to the light. Breathe slowly now. Let the tension soften, even as the moment unfolds, for you are safe. You are only witnessing. Solomon stood. His heart beat, steady, though the air itself seemed heavy, thick with something ancient, something hostile. He did not step back. He stepped forward, the ring now visible upon his hand, and with a motion both simple and filled with authority. He cast it. The gold caught the dim light as it moved through the air, and the moment it struck the shadow, the room changed. A sound broke the silence, not loud, but deep, resonant, like something unseen, cracking. The shadow recoiled, twisting, folding, pulling inward, as though forced into form by something it could not resist. And then, it appeared, not fully human, not fully anything known. Its limbs, long, thin, unnatural. Its skin, dark, shifting, like oil upon water. Its eyes, glowing faintly, yellow, hollow, aware. Its mouth opened, too wide, filled with shapes that resembled teeth, but not in any way that belonged to life. And it fell to its knees, as though bound by chains that could not be seen. No, it hissed, its voice like metal scraping stone. The seal of the Most High. Solomon stepped closer. The fear within him did not vanish, but it did not control him, because something greater stood with him. "What is your name?" he said, his voice steady, grounded, unshaken. "Do." The creature writhed, attempting to pull away, but unable to move beyond the invisible hold that bound it. "Orneus," it rasped. "My name is Orneus. Orneus." Its voice trembled, not with weakness, but with recognition. It knew the authority that held it. Solomon retrieved the ring, placing it once more upon his finger. The warmth returned instantly. Steady, grounding, real. "Why have you done this?" he asked. "Why do you torment this man?" Dusk. Orneus turned its gaze, slowly, toward Adar. And something dark passed through its expression. "Because he builds," it whispered. "Because he lays stone upon stone, for the house of the one we hate." Its voice grew sharper, filled with something bitter, something ancient. "We do not want the light to dwell here. We do not want his presence upon this earth." Solomon listened, not with anger, but with clarity. This was not random. This was resistance, a force pushing back against what God had ordained. "You will stop," Solomon said. The words were simple, but they carried weight, authority not his own. "You will no longer touch him." Orneus trembled. "You cannot command me," it hissed weakly. "I serve another." Solomon raised his hand, the ring catching what little light remained. "You will obey, in the name of the Lord God of Israel." And at that name, the creature recoiled, as though struck by something deeper than force, something it could not withstand. It collapsed further, its form shaking, weakening. "I will obey," it whispered. The resistance gone, broken, not by strength, but by authority. "Then you will do more than obey," Solomon continued. "You will tell me. Who commands you? Who sends you? Who stands behind this darkness?" Orneus hesitated, and for the first time, something like fear appeared, not of Solomon, but of something beyond him. "If I speak," it said, slowly, "he will come." Solomon stepped closer. "And if you do not, you will remain bound until the end of days." Silence filled the room, heavy, still, waiting. And then Orneus spoke. "Beelzebub." The name fell into the air like a shadow-given sound. "Prince of demons, Lord of those who fell." The room seemed to grow colder, but Solomon did not move. He had taken the first step. The unseen had been revealed. And now, the path before him was clear. Breathe slowly now. Let that moment settle. The first encounter, the first victory, the first glimpse into a world beyond sight. And yet, even here, even now, you are safe, because the light remains stronger, because God is present, and because no darkness can stand against his name. The name lingered in the air, heavy, unmoving, like a shadow that refused to fade. Beelzebub. It was not spoken loudly, yet it carried weight, ancient, vast, filled with something that reached far beyond the small room where Solomon stood. Orneus trembled where it knelt, its form flickering, unstable, as though even speaking that name had weakened it further. And Solomon remained still, not because there was no fear, but because he understood something deeper now. This was no longer a single spirit, no longer a hidden disturbance in the night. Night, night, night. This was a kingdom, a structure of darkness, ordered, aware, resisting the very work he had been called to complete. Breathe slowly now. Let the moment soften, for even here, even at the edge of something unknown, you are safe. Solomon lowered his gaze briefly, not in hesitation, but in thought. Then he spoke. "You will take me to him." The words were quiet, but they did not waver. Ornius recoiled instantly, its eyes widening, its form tightening as though struck. "No," it hissed, its voice sharp with something close to panic. "You do not understand. He is not like me. He is not bound so easily." Solomon stepped closer. The ring upon his finger seemed to glow, not with light, but with presence. "You will take me." There was no anger in his voice, only certainty. Only authority that did not belong to him, but moved through him. Ornius lowered its gaze, and slowly, unwillingly, it obeyed. The night had deepened. The city of Jerusalem lay silent, its people unaware of what moved beyond its walls. Solomon walked alone. Ornius glided before him, its form faint, shifting, barely visible beneath the pale light of the moon. They passed through the outer gates, descending into the valley beyond, where the air grew colder, heavier, touched by something older than memory. The ground beneath their feet was uneven, marked by stones and shadow, carved with places where the dead had long been laid to rest. This was a place few entered after dark, not because of danger seen, but because of something felt, a quiet resistance, a sense that this land belonged to something other than the living. Ornius stopped. Before them stood a tomb, its entrance sealed with a massive stone, worn by time, unmoved for years, beyond counting. The air around it felt still, too still, as though even the wind refused to pass. "He is here," Ornius whispered. Its voice had changed, lower, cautious, filled with something deeper than fear. "If you call him, he will come. And once he sees you, he will know you." Solomon did not respond immediately. He stepped forward, the ring warm upon his hand, steady, grounding. A reminder, not of his own strength, but of the one who had sent him. "Open it," he said. Ornius hesitated. Then, with a slow motion, it raised its hand. The stone moved, not quickly, not violently, not, but with a grinding sound, deep, echoing, as though the earth itself resisted its movement. Darkness lay beyond. Not empty darkness, but something thick, something present, something waiting. Solomon stepped forward. He did not draw back. He did not hesitate. He lifted his hand, the ring visible, the seal facing the darkness. And he spoke, "Beelzebub," as the name carried outward, steady, clear. "Prince of demons, Lord of those who have fallen. I, Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, this one, command you. In the name of the Lord God Almighty, come forth." Silence followed, deep, absolute, unmoving. For a moment, nothing happened. The darkness remained, the air still, and then something shifted. Not outside, but within the darkness itself. It moved, slowly, deliberately, like smoke gathering, like a presence unfolding from within itself. And then, a voice. It did not rise. It did not echo. Yet it filled everything. Who calls my name? The words were soft, yet vast, carrying something ancient, something that had once stood in light and had turned away. The darkness parted, and from within it, a figure emerged. Not monstrous, not grotesque, but something far more unsettling, beautiful, in a way that felt wrong. His form was tall, composed, regal. His garments flowed like shadow, dark, yet shaped with precision, as though once they had been light and had been altered, slowly, over time. His face, calm, almost serene, but beneath it, something broken, something twisted, just beneath the surface. And his eyes, black, not empty, but filled with a light that did not warm, a light that consumed. He stepped forward, stopping just beyond the threshold, and his gaze found Solomon. For a moment, nothing moved. No wind, no sound, only presence. Beelzebub smiled. Solomon. He spoke the name as though it were already known, as though it had been waiting. The son of David, the king who believes he commands the unseen. His voice was smooth, controlled, almost gentle. But beneath it, something deeper moved. Mockery, understanding, patience. Solomon stood firm, the ring steady upon his hand. I do not command by my own will, he said quietly. I command by the authority of the Most High. At those words, something changed, not outwardly, but in the space between them. Beelzebub's expression shifted, just slightly. Not anger, not fear, recognition. Yes, he said softly. The seal, the mark that binds. He stepped forward, just one step, and though he did not touch Solomon, the air itself seemed to tighten. I will answer you, he continued, because I must. But do not mistake obedience for submission. His gaze sharpened. I do not serve you. I endure you. The words hung in the air, quiet, undeniable. You excess. Solomon did not react. He had already been warned. They will obey, but they will not love you. How many? Solomon asked. How many stand under you? Beelzebub tilted his head, as though considering the question, though he already knew the answer. 72. He spread his arms slightly. 72 princes, each with their own dominion, their own legions, each once part of something greater. Each now, as you see before you. The valley felt heavier now, filled with something unseen, something waiting, just beyond perception. Solomon held his ground. Then you will summon them. The words were simple, direct, unwavering. Beelzebub's smile faded, and for the first time, something like tension entered the space between them. You ask much for one who has just begun to see. Solomon raised his hand slightly. The ring caught the faint light of the moon. I do not ask. I command. Silence, deep, stretching, unbroken. And then, Beelzebub lowered his gaze, not fully, not in surrender, but enough. As you wish, King of Israel. He lifted his hand, and the air changed. A sound moved through the valley, not heard with the ears, but felt within the body, like distant thunder or the shifting of something vast beneath the earth. The darkness stirred, and from every direction they came, shapes, forms, shadows taking structure, emerging from the unseen, gathering in silence. Some small, flickering like flame, others vast, towering, their presence pressing against the air itself. Eyes glowed, forms shifted, voices whispered, low, layered, overlapping like wind through dead leaves. They surrounded him, not touching, not moving closer, but present, watching, waiting. And in that moment, Solomon stood, alone, before them all, a single man, carrying a single ring, holding a single authority. And yet, it was enough. Breathe slowly now. Let the moment settle. The valley, filled with shadow. The king, standing in stillness. The unseen, made visible. And even here, even surrounded by darkness, there is peace. Because the light has not left. Because God is still present. And because no shadow, no matter how vast, can overcome what has been given by him. The valley did not return to silence. Not after they came. What had once been still, empty, untouched by anything but wind and memory, was now filled with presence. 72. Not counted by number, but felt. Like a weight in the air, like a gathering storm that did not move, but simply existed, waiting, way. And at the center of it stood Solomon, still, unmoving, breathing slowly, the ring upon his hand, warm, steady, alive, with something that did not belong to this world. Breathe slowly. Now, let the moment settle, not in fear, but in stillness. Because even here, even surrounded by what is unseen, you are safe. Before him, the forms shifted. Some stood tall, their outlines almost human, yet not quite, as though shaped from something that refused to fully become flesh. Others flickered, unstable, changing with every breath, never holding one shape long enough to be known. And some had wings, vast, folded tightly against their backs. Others moved without limbs, gliding, drifting, like thoughts that refused to settle. Their eyes, that was what remained constant. Watching, aware, not curious, but measuring. And among them, one presence stood apart. Not closer, not louder, but deeper. Beelzebub. He did not need to move. He did not need to speak. The others shifted around him, subtly, unconsciously, like shadows adjusting to a central darkness. Solomon felt it. The structure. The order within chaos. This was not disorder. This was hierarchy. And now, it faced him. He did not raise his voice. He did not step forward. He simply spoke. You will serve. The words were quiet, but they carried. Not outward, but inward, pressing into the space that held them all. A ripple passed through the gathering. Not movement, not sound, but resistance. Soft, restrained, contained. A whisper moved among them. Layered voices, overlapping. Too many to separate. Too faint to fully hear. But the meaning was clear. They did not accept. They did not agree. They obeyed, only because they must. Beelzebub's gaze lifted slightly, resting upon Solomon once more. There was no anger, only patience. "Tell them," Solomon said, his voice unchanged. "Tell them what binds them." For a moment, nothing happened. And then Beelzebub spoke. "Behold." His voice spread, not loud, yet everywhere at once. You, 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 you. The king who carries the seal, the authority that compels, the name that binds. The murmuring shifted, not gone, but altered. Recognition, reluctance, something deeper than defiance. Fear, not of the man, but of the one behind him. Solomon stepped forward, just once, the ground beneath him steady, unshaken. "You will build, Shu." He did not explain. He did not justify. "You will lay stone upon stone. You will raise what you have sought to destroy." The words moved through them, and this time there was no murmur. Only stillness. A question formed, not from one, but from many. "What do we gain?" The voice came from within the gathering, impossible to place, shifting, layered. "What do we receive?" Solomon did not hesitate. Nothing. The answer was immediate, clear. "You gain nothing. You lose nothing. You remain as you are." A pause. Then, "If you refuse." He raised his hand slightly. The ring caught what little light remained. "You will be bound until the end of days." Silence followed. Longer this time, deeper, and then, one by one, they lowered, not fully, not in devotion, but in submission. Enough. It was enough. Breathe slowly. Now, let that moment soften. The choice made, the resistance quieted, the work about to begin. The first to step forward was not the greatest, nor the smallest, but one who carried a presence that shifted even as it moved. It did not hold one shape. At times, a man, tall, composed. Then suddenly, something else. A flicker, a distortion, a form that refused to remain known. "I am Baal," it said. Its voice came from multiple directions at once, overlapping, echoing within itself. "I command legions. I see what others cannot, too." Solomon did not react. "You will shape the stone." Baal paused, only for a moment. Then it bowed, slightly, its form dissolving and reforming as it withdrew. Another stepped forward, smaller, older in appearance, though time meant little here. Bent, as though carrying weight, unseen. "I am Agarez." Its voice dry, brittle, yet sharp. "I move the earth. I shift the ground beneath men." Solomon regarded it calmly. "Then you will steady the foundation." A flicker of something passed through Agarez. Not agreement, not resistance, something in between. It turned and was gone. One by one, they came, each different, each carrying something that did not belong to the natural world. One spoke of hidden things, buried, beneath stone. Another of knowledge, of language, of secrets carried in sound. Some of destruction, others of healing twisted into harm. And to each, Solomon gave command, not long, not complex, simple, direct. You will lift the stone. You will shape the wood. You will guard the work. You will not harm. The pattern formed, not through force, but through repetition, through presence, through the quiet certainty that did not waver. Time passed, though it did not feel like time. The valley shifted, not in form, but in purpose. What had gathered as resistance began to move as labor, not willingly, but undeniably. At the edge of it all, Beelzebub remained, watching, always watching. When the last had stepped forward, when the final command had been given, he spoke once more. Do you understand what you have done? His voice was softer now, almost reflective. Solomon did not answer immediately. He looked across the gathering, at the forms that would now move under his command, at the forces that once opposed, now redirected. I understand enough. Beelzebub tilted his head. Do you? A pause. Then, quieter. Power is not the moment you command. It is the moment you believe the command is yours. The words lingered, but Solomon did not respond. Not yet. He turned and began to walk back toward the city. Behind him, they followed, not in chaos, not in noise, but in silence. A movement of shadow across the land, unseen by those who slept, unknown to those who would wake. And as the first light of dawn began to touch the horizon, the work had already begun. Breathe, slowly, now. Let the image settle. The king walking forward, the unseen following behind, the beginning of something greater. And within it all, a quiet truth remains. You are safe. You are held. And even when the unseen surrounds you, the light still leads the way. The dawn came gently, as it always had. But what it revealed was no longer the same. Where once there had been only stone, dust, and the steady labor of human hands, now something greater had begun to unfold. Something faster, deeper, almost beyond understanding. Under the command of Solomon, the work did not simply continue. It transformed. Breathe slowly now. Let the image form softly in your mind. The mountain, touched by morning light. And something extraordinary rising from within it. The workers arrived as they always did, climbing the slopes of Mount Moriah, their tools in hand, their voices quieter now, more cautious, carrying with them the memory of what they had seen the day before. They expected fear. They expected chaos. They expected something unnatural, uncontrollable, dangerous. But what they found was silence. Not empty silence, but ordered silence. The demons were already there, waiting, not hidden, not attacking. Simply present. Some stood beside massive stones, their forms still, patient. Others hovered near the edges of the site, their shapes shifting gently, like smoke caught in a slow wind. And when Solomon arrived, everything began. He did not shout. He did not command with force. He lifted his hand, just slightly. And the work resumed, but not as it had before. The first stone rose, not with ropes, not with strain, but with ease. lifted by something unseen, something that required no effort, no rest, no pause. The workers stepped back instinctively, their breath catching, their eyes wide, uncertain whether to fear or to witness. The stone moved through the air, slow, steady, controlled, and settled perfectly into place. No adjustment, no correction. As though it had always belonged there, a murmur passed through the men, not loud, not chaotic, but filled with something new, wonder, and something else, relief, because the work continued, and they were still alive to see it. Breathe slowly now. Let that feeling soften, the fear easing, the rhythm returning. Throughout the day, the pattern repeated. Daughter. Stones that once required dozens of men now moved as though guided by invisible hands. Massive pillars, lifted, turned, set, with precision, beyond human strength. Wood from distant forests, shaped without sound, carved without visible tool. Each line perfect, each edge exact. Fire burned in the forges, yet no one fed it. One. Metal bent, softened, formed, without hammer, without heat, as it was once known. Without heat, as it was once known. The demons worked, not wildly, not chaotically, but with purpose. Each one assigned, each one bound, each one carrying out its task with exactness that did not falter. Today, the workers watched at first. Then, slowly, carefully, they began to move again, not among the demons, but beside them, handing tools, guiding placement, speaking when needed, and to their astonishment, nothing struck them, nothing harmed them. The beings they had feared did not turn against them, did not even acknowledge them. They simply worked, as commanded, and as the sun rose higher, something began to shift within the hearts of the men. Not trust, not fully, but something close. A quiet acceptance. Because the temple was rising faster than anyone had imagined. Days passed, then more days, and what would have taken months, years even, began to take form in a matter of weeks. The foundation, once incomplete, now stood whole, unbroken, seamless. The walls rose higher, each stone aligned with perfect harmony, forming patterns that caught the light, reflecting it in ways that seemed almost alive. The pillars took shape, tall, elegant, reaching upward, as though drawn toward something beyond sight. Every detail, every measurement, every angle, this exact, unchanging. As though the design itself existed somewhere beyond the world and was simply being revealed. Solomon walked among it, every day, every hour, watching, observing, learning. He spoke less now to the men and more to the unseen. His voice remained calm, but something within it had changed. Confidence, not loud, not declared, but present. He no longer questioned whether the work would be completed. He knew it. He no longer wondered how it would be done. He directed it, and the demons responded immediately, without delay, without resistance. At the edge of the site, Beelzebub remained, always watching, always still, his presence unchanged, his gaze never leaving the king. The others moved, worked, followed, but he observed, and sometimes, very quietly, he smiled. Breathe slowly now. Let that image rest. The rising walls, the silent workers, the unseen forces shaping what cannot yet be fully understood. The temple grew, not just in size, but in presence. It began to feel different, as though the space itself was changing, becoming something more than stone and structure. The air grew heavier, not with weight, not does, but with meaning. Each step upon the ground felt deliberate. Each breath carried something sacred. Even the workers began to notice. They spoke less, moved more carefully, as though aware that they were standing within something holy, even before it was complete. That, at sunset, the light struck the walls, and for a moment, everything glowed. Gold reflected from polished surfaces. Stone held warmth as though it remembered the sun, and shadows stretched long, not dark, but deep, layered, full. Solomon stood alone that evening, at the highest point, looking out across what had been built, the city behind him, the valley beyond, and before him, the temple, almost complete, almost ready, a vision now made real. And within him, something stirred. At first, it was small, barely noticeable, a quiet thought, a subtle shift. This is mine, not spoken, not formed fully, but present. The work, the progress, the speed, the power. He had commanded it. He had directed it. He had brought order to what others could not even see. The thought lingered, soft, quiet, dangerous in its silence. Behind him, unseen, unheard, a voice moved through the shadows. Not loud, not clear, but present. Enjoy it, while it lasts. The words faded as quickly as they came, like breath upon air. Solomon did not turn, did not respond. Perhaps he did not hear. Or perhaps he chose not to. Breathe slowly now. Let the moment soften. The temple rising, the light fading, the quiet shift within the heart. And remember, even in moments of greatness, even in moments of power, you are safe, you are held, and the presence of God remains steady, unchanging, watching, guiding, waiting. The temple stood, nearly complete, not as a dream, not as a vision spoken in quiet rooms or carried through ancient promises, but as something real, something rising from the mountain itself, shaped in silence, formed in precision, held together by a force both seen and unseen. Under the hand of Solomon, the work had advanced beyond what any man could have imagined. Stone upon stone, beam upon beam, gold layered upon gold, every detail exact, every surface refined, every corner aligned with a purpose that seemed to reach beyond the world itself. Breathe slowly. Now, let the image settle gently. The temple, standing in the quiet glow of completion, the air around it, filled with something sacred, something waiting. The workers moved more slowly now, not because of exhaustion, but because something within them had changed. They no longer hurried. They no longer shouted. Their voices had softened, their movements careful, deliberate. as though they were walking within a place already holy, even before its final breath had been given. The demons still worked, but their presence had become familiar. Not accepted, not understood, but no longer feared in the same way. They moved with precision, with discipline, with an obedience that never faltered. And yet, they watched, always watching. From the edges of shadow, from the spaces between stone, from the silence beneath sound, they watched the king, and Solomon walked among them, no longer hesitant, no longer uncertain. His steps were steady, his gaze direct, his voice unquestioned. He had become the center of the work, not just its leader, but its force. He spoke, and things moved. He commanded, the ring upon his hand, no longer strange, no longer unfamiliar. It had become part of him, a presence he no longer noticed because it was always there, always warm, always ready, always responding. And slowly, without sound, without announcement, something began to change. Not in the temple, not in the work, but within him. It began as a thought, small, almost unnoticeable. A quiet reflection as he stood one evening, looking across the rising structure, the pillars catching the last light of the sun, the gold reflecting warmth into the fading sky. I have done this. The thought did not echo. It did not repeat, but it remained. And the next day, it returned, softer this time, quieter, more certain. No one else could have done this. The work continued, faster than before, cleaner, more perfect. And with each passing day, the distance between Solomon and those around him began to grow. He spoke less to the workers. He no longer walked among them with the same quiet attention. His eyes turned instead toward the structure itself, toward the form, the beauty, the completion of something that bore his direction, his command, his will. The prayers became fewer, not gone, but shorter, less filled with seeking, more filled with acknowledgement, less asking, more stating. He still spoke to God, but the tone had shifted, almost too subtly to notice. Almost. Breathe slowly. Now, let that shift remain gentle. For this is how it begins. Not in noise, not in sudden change, but in quiet, repeated thought. The nights grew longer, and Solomon often remained upon the mountain, even after the workers had gone, even after the demons had withdrawn into shadow. He would stand alone, looking at what had been built. The walls, the chambers, the sacred spaces forming exactly as he had envisioned, as he had directed, as he had brought into being. And in those moments, the silence around him would deepen, not empty, but filled with something that listened, something that waited. One evening, as the final light faded completely, leaving only the faint glow of distant stars above, he felt it, not as sound, not as presence, but as a thought that was not entirely his own. You have done what no other king could do. It did not startle him. It did not feel foreign. It felt natural. True, he did not respond, but he did not reject it either. And so, it remained. The next day, The temple grew closer to completion. The inner chambers were nearly finished. The Holy of Holies, the most sacred space, began to take form. Its dimensions exact, its surfaces untouched by flaw. Even the demons moved differently there, slower, quieter, as though something within that space resisted them, or perhaps reminded them. Solomon entered that chamber, alone. The air was still, heavier than the rest, not oppressive, but full, as though the space itself was aware. He stood in the center, looking around, and for a moment, there was silence, pure, unbroken. And then, the thought returned, stronger now, more defined. This is yours. He breathed in slowly. The air filled his lungs, warm, steady. One, 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 one. He did not speak, but something within him leaned toward the thought, accepted it, allowed it to settle, and from the shadows, unseen, Beelzebub watched, always watching. He did not interrupt. He did not speak, because he did not need to. The work was already being done, not by force, not by command, but by thought, by belief, by the quiet turning of a heart, away from its source and toward itself. Days passed, and the temple stood complete, in all but its final consecration. The people began to gather, from distant lands, from nearby villages, drawn by word, by rumor, by the promise of something beyond understanding. They stood at a distance, looking upward, their voices hushed, their eyes wide. They spoke the name of Solomon with awe, with reverence, with admiration, and he heard them. He did not seek it, but he did not turn from it either. Each word, each glance, each whisper settled within him, layer by layer, quietly, naturally, and the voice returned, not separate now, not distant, but woven into his own thoughts. You are chosen. You are greater. You are the one. Solomon stood once more at the edge of the temple, looking out across the gathered people, the rising walls behind him, the setting sun casting gold across everything it touched. And in that moment, he did not question the voice. He did not resist. He simply stood and allowed it to be. Breathe slowly now. Let the moment soften. The whisper, the shift, the quiet, turning. And remember, even here, even as the heart begins to wander, you are safe, you are held, and the truth, though sometimes quiet, is always waiting, ready to return. Whenever you listen, the temple stood complete, not in fragments, not in vision, but in fullness. Stone rested upon stone with perfect stillness. Gold shimmered softly in the quiet light, and every chamber, every passage, every hidden space waited in silence for what would come next. Under the reign of Solomon, the house of God had risen, faster than time should have allowed, more precise than human hands alone could achieve. And now, there was nothing left to build, only something left to become. Breathe slowly now. Let the stillness settle. The work complete, the motion ended, the silence returning. The workers had stepped back, their tools laid down, their voices quiet. They stood at a distance, looking upward, not at the king, but at the temple itself, as though unsure whether to celebrate or to remain still in reverence. Even the air felt different, no longer filled with motion, but with expectation. And Solomon stood alone at the highest point, where the view stretched across the city, across the valley, across everything he now ruled, and everything he believed he had shaped. The wind moved gently across his face, carrying no message, no warning, only stillness. Behind him, unseen, unfelt by others, the presence remained. Beelzebub, watching, always watching, waiting, not for action, but for realization. For the moment when thought becomes belief, and belief becomes truth within the mind of a man. Solomon's gaze moved slowly across the temple. The pillars, flawless. The walls, unmoving. The inner chamber, untouched, waiting for the presence of God. And within him, something settled, not rising, not sudden, but complete. A quiet certainty. This is mine. The thought did not arrive with force. It had been growing, for days, for nights, for every moment he had stood among the work, directing, commanding, watching the impossible become real. Now, it no longer whispered. Now, it remained. And in that stillness, something changed. Not in the temple, not in the world, but in him. Breathe slowly now. Let that shift remain gentle. For this is the moment when everything begins to turn. He did not kneel, not as he had before, not as he had on the mountain, when the work was uncertain, when the darkness had first appeared, when he had asked for guidance. Now, there was no question. Only completion, only certainty. And so, he stood, looking, not upward, but outward. The people began to gather. Word had spread beyond Jerusalem, beyond the borders of Israel. They came from distant lands, from cities unknown, drawn by the story, by the wonder, by the name of the king who had built what no one else could. They filled the outer courts, their voices soft, their movements careful, their eyes lifted not toward heaven, but toward the temple, and toward him, Solomon. The name moved through the crowd, quiet, reverent, filled with awe. The wise king, the chosen one, the builder. Each word carried lightly, yet settling deeply. Solomon heard them. He did not seek their praise, but he did not turn from it. It reached him and remained, layer upon layer. The voice returned, not from outside, not separate, but within. You have done this. You have brought this into the world. You have commanded what others could not. The thought no longer needed form. It was already accepted. And behind it, something deeper began to take root. Ownership, not of the temple alone, but of the power that had built it. The ring rested on his hand, still warm, still present, but different now. No longer a gift, no longer a reminder, but something he carried, something he used, something that answered to him. The distinction was small, almost invisible, but it was there, and it grew. Breathe slowly now. Let the moment soften, for even in turning, there is still time. The inner chamber remained untouched. The Holy of Holies, silent, waiting, empty. It had not yet been filled. It had not yet been consecrated. It had not yet received the presence it was built for. And yet, Solomon hesitated, not in action, but in thought, because for the first time, the temple was no longer only for God, it was also for him. A reflection, a monument, a testament, not just to divine instruction, but to his execution. His command. His will. The thought lingered. He stepped into the chamber. Alone. The air was still, heavier than any other space. Not filled, but waiting to be filled. He stood at its center, the walls around him perfect, untouched by flaw, untouched by error. And for a moment, there was silence. Then, very quietly, the voice returned. You are greater than those before you. No king has done what you have done. No man has commanded what you command. He breathed in slowly. The air filled him, warm, still, accepting. He did not speak. He did not resist. And so, the thought remained. Behind him, though he could not see, Beelzebub watched, not smiling, not mocking, only observing. Because the moment had come, not of defeat, not of battle, but of shift, the turning of the heart, away from dependence, toward self. Days passed. The temple stood ready. The people waited. The priests prepared. Everything was in place. Everything, except the one thing that mattered most. The presence of God. And yet, Solomon delayed, not in action, but in intention, because somewhere, beneath the layers of thought, beneath the quiet acceptance of what he had become, a distance had formed, small, unspoken, but real. The prayers were no longer filled with surrender. They were statements, acknowledgments, declarations, and the silence that once answered him remained silent. Breathe slowly now. Let that stillness settle. The temple complete, the heart shifting, the moment suspended. And remember, even here, even at the turning point, you are safe, you are held, and the path, though it may bend, is never beyond return. The wind moved once more across the mountain, soft, quiet, unchanged. But Solomon no longer listened to it. He stood within the temple, within his creation, within the reflection of something that had once been given and was now being claimed. And in that quiet, unseen by all, the turning was complete, not in action, not in word, but in the heart. And from that moment forward, everything would begin to change. And now, as the story gently fades, as the voices of kings, of shadows, of ancient stones begin to grow quiet, you are invited to remain here just a little longer, not to think, not to understand, but simply to rest. Breathe slowly now, in and out. Let your breath soften. Let it slow, just a little more, as if your body already knows it is safe to let go. The temple has been built. The king has walked through power, through wisdom, through quiet change. And yet, beneath every moment, beneath every rise and every fall, there is something deeper, something unchanging. All wisdom comes from God, not held, not owned, but given. Like light in the darkness, like breath in the stillness, like peace that arrives without effort. Breathe slowly now, and let that truth settle within you. You do not need to carry everything. You do not need to figure everything out. You do not need to hold every answer in your hands, because you were never meant to. There is a peace that exists beyond understanding, a peace that does not depend on control, a peace that does not come from striving, but from surrender, from trust, from resting in something greater than yourself. You are safe. You are held. God is watching over you, not from far away, not from a distance beyond reach, but near, closer than your breath, closer than your thoughts, closer than anything that has ever caused you worry. And even now, as your body begins to grow heavier, as your mind begins to quiet, his presence remains steady, unchanging, gentle. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw release. Let your body sink deeper into the surface beneath you. Supported, carried, at rest. Breathe in slowly now. And as you exhale, let go. Let go of the tension you didn't realize you were holding. Let go of the thoughts that tried to stay. Let go of the need to understand everything at once. You do not need to know the whole path. You only need this moment. And this moment is enough. Because in this moment, there is peace, a quiet peace that does not demand anything from you, that does not rush you, that does not ask you to become anything more than you are. You are enough, right here. You are seen. You are known. You are loved. Even when your thoughts wander, even when your heart feels uncertain, even when you feel far away, God remains, always. Breathe slowly now. Let your breath become lighter, softer, almost like it is breathing on its own. You no longer need to guide it. Your body knows how to rest. Your mind knows how to release. And your spirit knows how to return. If thoughts begin to appear, if something gently pulls your attention away, that is all right. Do not resist. Do not push them away. Simply notice and let them drift, like clouds moving slowly across a quiet sky, like leaves floating on still water. They come and they go, and you remain at peace. Return gently to your breath, in and out, slowly, softly. You are not alone in this world. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. Even in your quietest moments, even in your deepest thoughts, God sees you, and He understands, more than you realize, more than you need to explain. And within His presence, there is rest, true rest, not just for your body, but for your mind, for your heart, for every part of you that has been holding on for too long. Let that rest come now, gently, slowly, without effort. Breathe in and out. Feel your body becoming heavier, softer, still, your thoughts becoming quieter, more distant, like echoes fading into silence. You do not need to follow them. You do not need to hold them. You can let them go, because you are safe, because you are held, because you are surrounded by a peace that does not break. And as you drift closer to sleep, remember this: you do not need to carry what was never meant for you. You do not need to hold what God has already taken into His hands. You can release it. You can rest. You can trust, because He is watching over you. He is your peace. He is your safety. He is your rest. And tonight, in this quiet moment, you are held in His presence. You are calm. You are safe. You are at peace. Let that peace carry you now, gently, slowly, like a soft current, leading you deeper and deeper into rest. Rest here for a moment. Let that feeling settle. And as sleep begins to come, know this: you are not alone. You have never been alone, and you will never be alone, because God is with you, now and always. Breathe slowly now, and rest. And now, the story comes to rest. The temple stands in silence. The voices have faded. The shadows have grown still. And you remain here, breathing slowly, resting deeply, held in quiet peace. Breathe in gently now, and let it go, softly, effortlessly. There is nothing more you need to follow tonight, nothing more you need to understand. The story has already done its work, and now it gently releases you into rest. Feel your body becoming heavier. Your shoulders sinking, your arms resting without effort, your legs completely still, your whole body supported, safe, at ease. Let your mind grow quieter. Let your thoughts drift further away, like distant echoes, fading into silence. There is nothing you need to hold on to anymore. You are safe. You are held. God is watching over you. Even now, God. In the stillness, in the quiet, in the gentle rhythm of your breathing. And as you lie here, wrapped in calm, surrounded by peace, we softly turn toward a final prayer. Not loud, not urgent, but gentle and full of rest. May your mind be quiet tonight, free from worry, free from noise. May every thought that has troubled you slowly, gently fade away, like mist disappearing at dawn. May your body receive deep rest, rest that restores, rest that heals, rest that comes without effort. And may your heart be held softly, completely, in the presence of God, where there is no fear, no striving, no need to prove anything, only peace, only stillness, only love that remains. Breathe slowly now and receive that peace. Let it settle over you like a soft covering, like a quiet night sky filled with steady stars, calm, endless, safe. If anything still lingers in your mind, any small thought, any quiet worry, you can release it now. You do not need to carry it into sleep. You can let it go, because God is already holding it for you. You are not alone. You have never been alone, and you will never be alone. Even in the deepest night, even in the quietest moment, He is with you, watching over you, protecting you, holding you in a peace that does not break. Breathe in, slowly, this, one, and out. Let your body sink just a little deeper. Let your mind drift just a little further. Let everything soften completely. And now, we gently return to the stillness, to the quiet, to the soft rhythm of your breath. Let the world fade. Let the story fade. Let yourself drift, slowly, gently, into rest. In Jesus' loving name, amen. May you rest in Christ, always.